Hello, scholarly gamers, and welcome to Proof of Console, the show where we look at something from video games from a mathematical or scientific standpoint to see how plausible it really is. Arguably one of the greatest games of the modern era is Bioshock, an incredible first-person shooter in which the player explores an underwater dystopia where ethics don't exist. People do what they want, including, but not limited to, crazy plastic surgery experiments, art pieces based on post-mortem photography, and playing around with superpowers. And this is all possible due to the substances Adam and Eve, and its many forms called plasmids. But what are these things really? Do they have basis in science fact? And will there come a day where the average person will be able to fire electricity or bees out of their hands? That's what we'll be exploring on today's episode. Let's back up with some lore. Bioshock and its sequels are full of it, and most isn't right out there in the open. But basically the whole reason Rapture even exists where it does in the Atlantic is because it's built atop an anomaly called the luminescent biomass, a giant pile of strange material that affects the sea life around it. More specifically, this type of sea slug, which I thought was the liver of a small child when I first came upon it in the game.
Oh god, what did I do? Is that like a liver?
The slugs bite their victims, and like mosquitoes carrying malaria, imbue them with a sort of virus, but in this case it's a benign form of cancer that rapidly disintegrates and heals over time, a la Deadpool. This cancer replaces old cells with new unstable ones that mutate in different ways if enriched, and this is where we get our Adam and Eve, which are raw and refined versions of the new cells respectively. When the genetic code is altered and then injected, this is where we get plasmids. All of this sounds like complete fiction and couldn't possibly exist, but amazingly there is more actual science here than you might think. The term plasmid isn't just technobabble. The in-game definition is essentially the same as real life. Plasmids are circular strands of DNA that work independently from the chromosomes in every living thing's cells. Where chromosomes pass exclusively from parent to child, plasmids can transfer to unrelated cells, even to and from completely different species. They were first discovered in the 1940s by Edward Tatum and Joshua Lederberg when they discovered a strain of E. coli passing their modified gene to a new, unrelated strain. The E. coli did this by conjugating, in other words, creating an organic land bridge for the genes to travel across. And what makes plasmids even more special, they can be modified in any way with any strand of genes. Using plasmids in humans is a little more difficult though, since we're much more complex organisms. However, what we do have that is comparable are transposons. Otherwise known as transposable elements, these are genes that can move all around a chromosome to transfer information. Interestingly, though transposons are essential to human upkeep, we haven't had them forever. Simply put, as humans evolved over millions of years and overcame various viruses and bacteria, we ended up stealing them out of nature and using their genetic material for our own purposes. In fact, we've been doing this automatically for so long that almost half of the entire human genome is made up of transposons. Therefore, it's not out of the question that we can create plasmids synthetically to function like transposons, and get them to work naturally in our systems to do whatever we want. There are plenty of possibilities if we command complete control of plasmids, and although we've experimented some and enabled lab mice to have bioluminescence for example, we're nowhere near getting Bioshock-style plasmids in our veins. Still, one potential that is within the realm of possibility is electrobolt. Unlike telekinesis or incinerate, we see electricity used in nature, in the form of electric eels. They discharge it by allowing sodium ions gained from electrolytes to shoot down their bodies through 3 distinct organs used just for this mechanism, stunning their enemies. If we were to isolate the gene that allowed this process to occur, turn it into a plasmid, and adapt it into human consumption, it's plausible. But we're still a long way away from it, and testing these sort of things on humans isn't exactly smiled upon. Stupid ethics. Always getting in the way. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have a question you want answered, leave it in the comments. Also in the comments, tell us, do you think that ethics are helpful or harmful to the scientific process? What would be an animal power that you'd want integrated into a plasmid? Either way, I'll see you for the next super sciencey episode of Proof of Console.